Number 10. Crystal. Honestly, Crystal does not get enough appreciation and acknowledgement here, so I figured since Inhumans are technically considered to be cosmic and all, what with them living for a time on the blue area of the moon where their home of Attilan was moved to, and often getting involved in cosmic intergalactic conflicts, I figured why not use this opportunity to talk about Crystal, her powers and abilities, and why they are so cool. While Crystal might not have access to an avatar state, she basically has all of the skills and abilities of the avatar. She can control and manipulate the 4 elements on a molecular level, controlling oxygen to make fire spontaneously appear. She can combine hydrogen and oxygen to create water or rain. She can manipulate the movement of air. She can cause earthquakes to happen, and has even on occasion managed to affect the position of tectonic plates. The limits of her powers lie in the amount of area or volume of an element that she can control at one time. Also, using her powers does tend to wear her out, so she's really best at performing in shorter battles or ones that are not as demanding on her abilities. Still, even though she is often overshadowed by her sister Medusa and often her brother-in-law as well, Black Bolt, her abilities are still pretty impressive. Number 9. Night Mask. Night Mask is also known as Adam Blackveil, or sometimes just Blackveil. He was the first being created by Ex Nihilo, one of the gardeners who worked alongside the Builders to create new and perfect life throughout the galaxy, and refurbishing existing beings, transforming them into something better. Considered to be a perfect being, Night Mask has powers which allow him to teleport from anywhere to anywhere else in space, even potentially moving through or to alternate worlds, by creating portals and utilizing the extra-dimensional place known as the Superflow to cover vast distances. The Superflow is basically like the space between universes, where concepts and dreams are said to originate. Kind of like a cosmic shortcut, if you will. He can also communicate with almost any technological device and bend that device to his will, reprogramming it easily to serve his own purpose. Night Mask also has the ability to use his energy halos to emit blasts of destructive energy, so he's not too shabby in a fight neither. Number 8. Mar-Vell. Mar-Vell was not only powerful for the tech he wielded, but he also has had a wealth of powers that have seemed to surface and then weirdly disappear over time. He has used his Uni-Beam, worn and been strengthened and protected by Nega Bands, and has various other gadgets that he's able to utilize in battle. He's been shown to be fast enough to dodge bullets, and has increased strength while on Earth due to Earth's gravitational pull being less intense than what he's used to. He's also had his powers enhanced over the years, now and then making him insanely powerful, like when he was protector of the universe and also had cosmic awareness. Is that how gravity works? If the pull is less, you're stronger, right? Because you're used to on your world, like having to fight gravity. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Science. Number 7. Hulkling. Hulkling has both a Kree and Skrull heritage and background, being the son of Skrull Princess Anel and Kree hero Mar-Vell. He was spirited away when he was young in order to ensure he was protected and hidden on Earth, where he was raised by his foster mother, Mary Jo Altman, from whom he gets his surname. Theodore, or Teddy Altman, grew up to become a shape-shifting hero who was not aware of his true lineage until later in his life. He is not only super strong and durable due to his enhanced physiology, but he also has a healing factor and can shapeshift, even giving himself wings, which then he can use to fly with. Recently in the Empire event, Hulkling was also given the power of Excelsior, an ancestral space sword imbued with cosmic power, which was bestowed upon him when he became the Emperor of the Alliance, Emperor Dorak VIII. Number 6. Carroll Danvers. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Carroll has been established as one of the most powerful heroes that we have. She took a straight up headbutt from Thanos while trying to hold him off while he was wearing the Infinity Gauntlet, and she didn't even really blink during that at all. Craziness. Now in the comics, Carroll is not quite as powerful, but she's still proven her strength and toughness time and time again. She's taken on the Hulk, managed to withstand a direct energy blast from Thanos, and even when she struggled to use her powers due to a tumor in her brain, she still fought to use her super strength, managing to lift up an entire subway train without really much effort. And in case you're wondering, that tumor was kind of trying to dampen her powers. In fact, she could have killed herself by using her powers or flying at the time. Carroll is also a skilled pilot and tactician, and although she's right-handed, you definitely still wouldn't want her to get you with her left hook. Even though she admits her left arm isn't as strong as her dominant right, she can still hit you so hard you'll fly from planet Earth to space if you manage to survive that hit. And if you can even survive in space, which I can't, so I would be dead. Number 5. Star Brand. Kevin Connor was just a normal human college kid when, during the White event, he received the power of Star Brand. This surge of power caused him to destroy the college that he attended and got him the attention of the Avengers, Nightmask, and Captain Universe. Star Brand would later travel with Nightmask to see his creator Ex Nihilo, who would then help to explain what had happened to Kevin and how best to handle these new powers. With the power of the Star Brand, Kevin received virtually limitless energy-based powers, which increased Kevin's strength and endurance. He was also able to project energy blasts, manipulate energy, and even manipulate matter at a quantum level. Number 4. Ronan. Ronan doesn't just happen to have his Kree physiology, this often Kree hero also has had himself leveled up in terms of his physiology due to cybernetic implants, and he has even had his power levels upped by an interaction with the Black Vortex Mirror, which often unlocks one's potential even after the user has relinquished the powers that were imbued by it. The awesome thing about Ronan is that he's not only super strong, durable, and fast, but he's also quite intelligent. Sure, he hasn't always been a hero, but when he does work with and for the good guys, he is a powerhouse. And even when he's considered more of a villain, he is still often respected by fellow supers, no matter their alignment. Fun fact, while Ronan has actually fought against the Inhumans in the past, he has also for a time allied himself with them, and he even married and was in love with the Inhuman Crystal, who we talked about earlier. I actually really like them together. I think they're cute. Number 3. Gladiator. Gladiator is known for being a prominent member of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. He himself is a citizen of the Shi'ar Empire who has been shown to be powerful enough to defeat Thanos in a fight. The thing about Gladiator, aka Karnak, is that his confidence increases his power levels. If he's confident enough, his strength and speed can become almost limitless in terms of power levels, also making him near invulnerable to taking damage as well, strengthening his durability. He has been shown to be powerful enough to take down the Thing, and has even managed to explode and destroy planets with the force of his blows. Now that is some super strength. Number 2. Beta Ray Bill. Beta Ray Bill never gets enough love and respect, so it is time to give him some. Beta Ray Bill is a Corbinite who was chosen to be his people's champion. As such, he was transformed into a cybernetic being which enhanced his physiology. Originally, Bill started out as a nemesis to Thor, who Bill believed was a threat to the Corbinites that Bill himself was responsible for protecting. The two fought in a battle for who would get to keep Thor's hammer, following Bill managing to claim the hammer and defeat Thor in combat. Bill also actually won that trial, but in the end, Odin decided Thor could actually have his hammer back and instead forged a new hammer called Stormbreaker for Bill. Following this, Bill would work with the Asgardians and grow close to them, befriend Lady Sif, Thor, and others. His strength is said to match Thor's, and he is known for being superhumanly fast and durable. He's also virtually immortal when it comes to how long he could survive for, based on the fact that he's kind of a cyborg. Number 1. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a perfect being who was created by a group of researchers known as the Enclave. After he was born, he was also taken in and given motivation by the Soul Stone by the High Evolutionary. Technically, Warlock's potential is infinite, as following each rebirth cycle he has a tendency to become more and more powerful and can even develop new powers during as needed. Adam Warlock has intense cosmic awareness, has been telepathic, is capable of energy and matter manipulation, and is considered to be super strong, durable, fast, and even immortal due to the sheer, indomitable strength of his soul. Number 10. Medusa. Medusa is known as being the wife of Black Bolt, or one of the wives, but she's kind of the main one. The one Black Bolt really relies on when it comes to helping him rule the Inhumans. She and Black Bolt are basically the king and queen of the Inhuman city of Attilan. She is able to speak to her husband telepathically, but this is not where her powers lie. Her strength comes from her fighting skills and her trichokinesis powers, which allow her to control her hair and use her hair strands as a weapon. Hair fighting. Medusa's hair is super strong and can also be manipulated as though it were a whip. We've seen her use it like a rope to restrain people, reinforce herself, and to lift other things. Add in the fact that Medusa is quite skilled when it comes to wielding her terrifyingly long and powerful locks, and she can prove to be a mighty enemy in battle. Number 9. Star-Lord. Star-Lord in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is known for being half Terran or human and half living planet, I guess? We learn in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 that Star-Lord aka Peter Quill is actually the son of Ego, the living planet. However, in the comics, Star-Lord's dad is someone else entirely, although Peter still remains half alien by birth due to his father's identity. In the comics, Peter Quill is the son of Jason of Spartax, a prince of Spartax whose father was the Emperor. At one point, in fact, Peter would end up ruling Spartax after his girlfriend at the time, Kitty Pryde, used her powers enhanced by the Black Vortex to save the planet. Peter grew up not knowing of his true heritage, as Jason had erased his mother's memories of ever meeting his father to spare her the pain of him leaving, not knowing that they had conceived a child together.
You are the father!
But even without knowledge of his heritage, Peter has always been pretty spacey, often known for being the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy team. Number 8. Novar. Novar is also known as Marvel Boy. He is a Kree from the alternate reality of Earth 2000. So many zeros. He is a Kree from the alternate reality of Earth 200080. He was one of the crewmates aboard the Marvel, a ship whose crew was tasked with a peacekeeping mission aiming to maintain a ceasefire between the Kree and Skrull of their reality. After finding their ship was lost in the multiverse, they ended up being shot down and crash landed on Earth 616's Earth. Novar was the sole survivor of the crash. Originally, Novar blamed all humans for the death of his crew and his parents, who were also aboard. However, over time the other heroes were able to convince him to abandon his quest for revenge and join them instead in protecting the planet. Eventually he would come to be an ally and member of the Young Avengers. He is a hero who is known for his intelligence, especially when it comes to Kree tech, his fighting skills, speed, durability, and strength. He also has been known to use equipment such as Plex, the knowledgeable living database that once belonged to his ship, and his own set of negabands, given to him by the Supreme Intelligence. Number 7. Wraith. Zack Dell in truth is really more anti-hero than full-out hero, but he's super cool and we don't talk about him enough, so I'm willing to extend the reaches of the parameters of this list to include him. Zack Dell was Kree-born but ended up being estranged from his family after they were killed by a Kree death squad, led by a mysterious figure. He himself at least was not murdered, but instead was propelled outward into space, left drifting helplessly. Eventually he ran into a subspace of the Kree who had become trapped in a wormhole and exposed to space parasites known as the Exelon. These Kree called themselves the Nameless. They stabbed Zack Dell upon finding him so that he too would be exposed to the Exelon and also become one of the Nameless. He hasn't always been bonded to the Exelon, but while bonded, received enhanced strength, energy manipulation, the ability to inspire intense fear in his opponents, and regenerative capabilities. Wraith even managed to use his powers to make the Phalanx feel fear, which is pretty impressive. Number 6. Moondragon. Moondragon was once a human girl known as Heather Douglas. After being nearly killed by Thanos, who had come across her and her family while they were driving out in the desert, she was rescued by Mentor. Seeking to make amends for his son's murderous ways, he took Heather to Titan and gave her to the Shaolorn monks to be brought up. There, she would grow into the powerful telepathic and telekinetic hero known as Moondragon. Heather's father would also survive this attack by being reborn as the being known as Drax the Destroyer. Moondragon has been shown to possess telepathic strength great enough to possess millions of people at once, and can deliver a mind blast strong enough to take out the Hulk. Number 5. Black Bolt. Black Bolt is the king and ruler of the Inhumans. You might be wondering why I even included him and his wife Medusa on this list. How are Inhumans spacey, you might wonder? Well, not only have Inhumans been involved in various different galactic matters involving various planets and empires, but for a time they actually called space their home, with their city of Attilan residing in the blue area of the moon. Black Bolt himself is known for being one of the most powerful of the Inhumans. Through Terrigenesis, he unlocked the power of his voice. The speech center in his brain gives him the power to harness electrons using his voice, which basically means he can blow you apart with a shout or blow you away with a whisper. Black Bolt himself is also a modicum telepathic and uses his telepathic powers to communicate with others like Medusa and to shield himself from psychic attack. Number 4. Miss America. America Chavez is super spacey. Just listen to her origin story. She comes from a place known as the Utopian Parallel, a place out of space and time, an alternate world that was in essence created by Wiccan, who here is known as the Demiurge. She was raised by two mothers, Amalia and her wife Elena Chavez. Her mothers sacrificed themselves to save their home, sealing up black holes that threatened its existence. As a result, the Utopian Parallel ended up being sucked into the Marvel multiverse. Inspired by her mother's sacrifice, America Chavez ran away from her home, confident that it would be safe without her, and set out to save other worlds in other dimensions, traveling through space and time. America Chavez may have grown up on Utopian Parallel, but she is also a member or descendant of the Furtonas, a humanoid alien race created by two deities in love with one another. As such, she has powers from both worlds, possessing super strength, speed, invulnerability, and the abilities to create multi-dimensional portals, manipulate energy, and fly. Number 3. Smasher. Isabel Kane was originally a normal human living on a farm in Iowa, but one day she came across the exospecs of a Smasher. Smashers are members of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. They look like humans but are aliens who use exospecs, a set of goggles, to grant themselves powers and enhance their abilities. Izzy would be granted powers like superhuman strength, speed, and durability, as well as the ability to fly, and do so at hyper speed when needed. She would later leave Earth, traveling to the Shi'ar Empire and joining the Imperial Guard. Later on, when she returned to Earth, she would be recruited by Captain America to join the Avengers. Number 2. Thor. That's right, Thor can actually be considered a cosmic hero.
I'm very protective of the humans because they're so helpless and ridiculous.
Well, he can be considered a godly hero too, but it turns out those categories are not always mutually exclusive. In fact, there are many instances where they go hand in hand with characters. Thor himself is from Asgard, but Asgard itself is actually located in outer space. Unlike Earth, it's not round, but more flat. In fact, the 10 realms are believed to be located potentially in alternate dimensions. Asgard, Alfheim, Nidavellir, and Vanaheim are all believed to be part of the same dimension. When wielding Mjolnir, Thor is considered one of the most powerful heroes around. He can use his hammer to destroy mountains, moons, and easily demolish important Earth landmarks and monuments, such as the Great Pyramids and the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Number 1. Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is one of the most powerful cosmic beings around. He does his best to be a hero while also often being known for serving his master Galactus as a herald. He's probably one of the most heroic heralds, to be honest. He gets his powers from his master Galactus, who imbued him with the power Cosmic after he agreed to serve him in exchange for Galactus sparing the Silver Surfer's homeworld, which Galactus was about to devour. However, in becoming a herald, Norrin Radd, as he was formerly known, also lost a part of himself, being unable to remember much of his past life before becoming the Silver Surfer. He has used his power in the past both to disrupt all technology and electricity in the world, turning off all of its power, and has also used his power to save the world, preventing it from being destroyed by binding his cosmic soul to the planet's core. Number 10. Crystal. Crystal is the sister to Medusa. She was also for a long time the love interest of Quicksilver, and the two even had a child together and were married. Crystal has also been in a relationship with Johnny Storm, another famous hero and a member of the Fantastic Four. It is possible through her attachment to Johnny we could see Crystal introduced in the MCU, as we know the Fantastic Four will be showing up eventually. And perhaps even through Crystal we could be introduced to the Inhumans, and their sometimes cosmic home of Attilan, a floating invisible city that has existed before on the moon and at other times floating over Manhattan, specifically the blue area of the moon, where everything happens on the moon in Marvel. Crystal also has pretty cool superpowers herself, which allow her to control the elements, making her pretty powerful, but not too powerful, as she can tire herself out from overuse. And I personally think people that have the potential to be really powerful but also have some kind of setback, that's a great character for the MCU. Number 9. Karnak. We talk about Black Bolt and Medusa usually when we discuss Inhuman characters that we want to see more of, but there are other Inhumans who are also cool and deserve our attention, like Karnak. Karnak is a master martial artist as well as a priest and philosopher. He possesses the ability to see the flaw in all things, which makes him not only an immensely skilled fighter, but also lends to his intelligence as well. Karnak is also a member of the Inhuman royal family. If the Inhumans do end up appearing in the MCU at any point, Karnak would be a character that we'd hope to see because he's just so interesting and such a badass, even without being exposed to the Terrigen Mists and undergoing Terrigenesis. He is loyal to Black Bolt and Medusa even after he seemingly dies. He manages to return within the new human lineage, who he is related to but remains kinda trapped within, thinking he is in hell. When he eventually learns the truth, he works toward escaping his prison, bursting forth from lineage, and in the process killing him in Medusa's hour of need, as she was being defeated by Lineage, who had become her royal advisor as she ruled over New Attilan, but had plotted to betray her. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Number 8. Cosmo the Space Dog. We have seen Cosmo the Dog before in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but not in as active as a role as comic fans know him for. Originally, Cosmo the Space Dog was an ally of the Guardians of the Galaxy team during their relaunch in 2008. He made his first appearance in the 2007 Nova series in issue number 8 and would join up with the Guardians team led by Star-Lord in their 2008 series Guardians of the Galaxy, appearing as an ally to the team and supporting character as early as issue number 1. Cosmo in the MCU has mostly been relegated to an Easter egg or cameo appearance for comic book fans to enjoy. Cosmo could potentially go on to have more of an actual role in the MCU though, if we get to see more spin-offs with T'Challa as Star-Lord, leading the Guardians team we saw in episode 2 of the What If animated series. Here Cosmo actually gets rescued from Tavon's collection and travels to Wakanda with the team following their adventure in Nowhere. He's there, so he could join the team, which I would be really into. Number 7. Silver Surfer. Another hero that we'd love to see show up in the MCU would be Silver Surfer, and honestly, I wouldn't mind this hero appearing with or without his attachment to Galactus, at least initially. Silver Surfer in the comics is typically known for being the most powerful all-around herald of Galactus. Norrin Radd was once a scholar who resided on the planet Zenn-La, but when Galactus arrived to devour his home planet, he offered instead to work as Galactus' herald, helping him to seek out planets to satiate his hunger in exchange for him leaving Zenn-La in peace. Galactus accepted Norrin's offer and transformed him into the silver-skinned surfer we know today, imbuing him with the almighty power cosmic. Number 6. Moondragon. Moondragon in the comics is the daughter of Drax the Destroyer. Their comic book origin together is a little different when you compare it with the Drax backstory that we know of from the Guardians of the Galaxy films, at least as we know it right now. However, the hatred Drax feels for Thanos provides us with at least some sense of connection to his comic book counterpart. In the comics, Thanos was responsible for the death of Drax's family back when he was known as the human Arthur Douglas. In the movies, of course, it was Ronan who was responsible, but Ronan was also working with Thanos. In the comics, while his wife Yvette died, Arthur was reborn as Drax and his daughter Heather was also reborn as Moondragon. Moondragon would be taken back to Titan and would study and hone her skills and powers at the Shaolong Monastery. Moondragon has been a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers, and Defenders, among others, so there is a lot of opportunity for how she could resurface in the MCU. And if Drax learned that his daughter was actually not killed but somehow survived, that would also add an extra layer of depth for Dave Bautista to play with as Drax. And I would be into that. I really like Drax. Number 5. Lockheed. With Lockheed, we also might get to see the addition of Kate Pryde and the other mutants. Yay! Also, we then therefore would actually get to see the amazing relationship between Kate and her steadfast and loyal friend Lockheed. It's weird to think of Lockheed as being so cosmic, as he's so closely associated with the mutant faction of heroes in the comics, and yet he is a dragon-like space alien. Lockheed befriended Kitty when she and the X-Men were kidnapped by the Brood and taken to one of their colonized worlds. Lockheed saved Kitty and decided to head back to Earth with her despite having his own home and family back in space, who he in essence abandoned just to be with Kitty and the X-Men team. Lockheed appeared as an Easter egg of sorts in New Mutants, being Illyana's imaginary friend in puppet form, who turned out really actually existed. This also was a fun nod considering that Lockheed also happened to match the description of a creature from a fairy tale story in the comics that Kitty had told Illyana before she ended up being kidnapped and in space. New Mutants, however, exists outside of MCU canon, so this appearance does not count. Lockheed was also once an agent of S.W.O.R.D. in the comics, so there are a few opportunities when it comes to how he could show up in the MCU, either with the mutants or with S.W.O.R.D. And think of all the merch and Lockheed plushies we could get if he did. I want all the Lockheed merch. Number 4. Manifold. Manifold is Eden Fessy, a mutant who is gaining more and more prominence in the comics and is known as the Master Teleporter and also Espionage Operative for S.W.O.R.D., the now all-mutant space-based organization. S.W.O.R.D. in the comics stands for Sentient World Observation and Response Department. While in the MCU it stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division, there is still a chance that with new management, S.W.O.R.D. could become more about observation and defense than sentient weapons and offense. If that were to happen when mutants arrive in the MCU, Manifold might be a good fit for a new recruit, just like in the comics. Manifold's mutant powers themselves are quite cosmic in nature, allowing Manifold to warp time and space through communicating with the universe basically, who generally grants Manifold whatever he asks for, bending itself in essence to his whim and allowing him to travel great distances with ease. Don't underestimate Manifold, he is a masterful teleporter. And y'all know how I feel about teleporters. Teleporters are so OP. Number 3. Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock was teased at the end of the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, but we still haven't seen the character just yet, nor has he been cast. Although there were some rumors spreading around online a few months ago about the search for Adam Warlock having begun in the casting room, and even rumors about just what type of actor James Gunn and the team were looking for. Gunn, however, quashed those claims himself in a tweet. Adam Warlock is an immensely powerful character in the comics, and one that would be really cool to see on the big screen. However, it seems that while it is likely we will see Adam Warlock, the creation of Aisha, and the Sovereign as teased at the end of Guardians 2, it seems less likely that we'll see him appear in the third and final Guardians 3. He might not show up there. At least that's what James Gunn is leading us to believe, unless he's trying to sneak one past us and be like, yeah, he won't be there, and then he still shows up. Perhaps though he will be a new character who gets his own series of films and is simply introduced as a concept in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I could see being a thing considering how important Adam Warlock is. Only time though will tell. The other big question of course will be who will be the right person for this role? Who will play him? Since apparently we thought we had an idea, but we don't have any ideas yet. Is it weird that I would really love to see Keanu Reeves as Adam Warlock? Is that a weird cast? I don't know. Number 2. Abigail Brand. Abigail Brand was a character that I was hoping to meet when S.W.O.R.D. was introduced in the MCU in WandaVision. I was waiting. I was like, S.W.O.R.D., Abigail Brand, here she comes. Unfortunately, the version of S.W.O.R.D. we got to know was a little different. And mutants, of course, still do not exist in the MCU, so that is another problem with introducing Brand, who is known for being a mutant. Her mutant power causes her hands to ignite, erupting into all-around flames that are typically depicted as being either red or blue. The flames she can create are hot enough to burn through most types of metal. Abigail Brand herself is part human and part alien, and she often acts as a leader for S.W.O.R.D., which used to be associated with S.H.I.E.L.D., operating as a separate division within it, which often meant that we got to see her interacting with Nick Fury, which was pretty great, I gotta say. You could think of Abigail Brand as more of a sassy space pirate version of Maria Hill. Number 1. Emperor Hulkling. One character that we have all been really excited to see show up in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, who has been huge in the comics and only getting even greater in terms of popularity, is Emperor Doric VIII, aka Hulkling. Hulkling's current cosmic husband, Wiccan, aka Billy Kaplan, did of course recently show up in kid form in WandaVision, and as other various members of the Young Avengers appear to be surfacing in the MCU, fans everywhere are wondering just how and when Teddy Altman will make his appearance. Hulkling is one of the original members of the Young Avengers and is currently known as the head and ruling emperor of the Kree-Skrull Alliance. Assuming this role just before the events of Empire, Teddy was crucial to ending the 100-year-long war between the Kree and Skrull to unify the two groups and create the Alliance. Actually, I don't know if it was 100 years. It may have been longer than 100 years, just putting that out there. But I feel like it was at least 100 years long. Teddy himself is both Kree and Skrull by birth, being the son of Marvel and Princess Anel.
Starting us off in at number 10, Terrax. Originally known as Tyros, he started as a dictator of Landlac in a solar system around 80,000 light years from Earth. He maintained control using his power over rock. In essence, this guy was a more advanced earthbender, being able to animate figures out of stone that would patrol the kingdom, maintaining his order and rule. However, this wouldn't last forever, since Galactus was seeking a new herald to guide him towards his next dinner buffet. Galactus had also finally learned that you shouldn't have good guys find you worlds to destroy. So when the Fantastic Four asked Galactus for help against the Sphinx, his only condition to help was if the Fantastic Four subdued Tyros for him. They did, and Tyros was exposed to the cosmic power of Galactus and turned him into Terrax the Tamer. His control over stone was improved tenfold, and he could nearly control a whole planet of stone at once. In addition to this, he was granted the Cosmic Axe, which was capable of generating waves of cosmic force. Terrax was nuts, even beginning to wipe out worlds before Galactus got there, even at times defying Galactus' wishes, which is pretty ballsy if you ask me. I mean, like, that's what you get for hiring a bad guy though, I guess.
Number 9. Umar. Umar is the sister of Dormammu and is basically on a similar level to her brother. She has a great knowledge of magical lore which she can use to do a vast number of things. She also is capable of teleportation and time travel. And you know how I feel about teleporters, they are pretty OP in my opinion. Same basically with any person, hero or villain who can manipulate time. Umar often allies herself with her brother even though he hasn't always treated her great. I don't think Dormammu will be winning any Brother of the Year awards is all I'm saying. She has also been shown to be more powerful than Doctor Strange even, on occasion. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list as much as I love all of the things that are cosmic, cosmic things, they're so great, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I think that was a sentence that made sense.
And today, Ego. Introduced in Thor number 132 in 1966, Ego was created when a mysterious being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment. A scientist by the name of Egros started work on a way to save his race from the nova that experiment had left inevitable. The night of the explosion, Egros had his race move into the bunkers he had set up at the planet's core, but the star exploded sooner than they had planned. So in an attempt to save his own life, he tried to reach the underground vault, but failed. However, Egros was merged with every living thing destroyed by that sun, including his people. This created Ego the Living Planet. Considering how this guy is literally a living planet, I think it's safe to say why he's on this list, especially when he was able to hold his own against Galactus. Yeah, a few months after a battle with Thor, Galactus discovered Ego and instantly attacked. Understandably. Ego in his defense created a shield of solid clouds and began to fight back, attempting to strangle Galactus with tentacles. I feel like I've seen that video before. Either way, anyone able to hold their own against Galactus is well deserving to be on this list.
Number 7. Dora Mamu. Dormammu recently actually came out on top against Ego in a battle, and in certain conditions possesses limitless power. Dormammu is part mystical and part cosmic in terms of what kind of villain he is, but make no mistake that he is not out of his element in outer space at all. Dormammu has battled against Odin and has even threatened to end the Celestials before, who are like super cosmic, claiming that he will be the one to destroy the extremely powerful beings. I think we're still waiting for that to happen, but I believe. Not only has Dormammu threatened the existence of Earth before, like we saw in the MCU, but in the comics he has threatened the entire universe and even entire reality of Earth 616 before. So that's the kind of level that he's generally on. There's like other villains, and then there's Dormammu.
And at 6, Michael Korvac. Being first introduced in Giant Size Defenders number 3 in 1975, Michael Korvac's father was killed due to events surrounding his birth in 2977. He was raised by his mother, but when the solar system he lived in on Earth 691 and its colonies became the target for the Brotherhood of Badoon, Michael became a traitor and helped the Brotherhood. However, after a few moments of hesitation later on, he was cut in half and fused with his computer by the Brotherhood, turning him into basically a cyborg. But this seemed to do more harm than good for the Brotherhood, since now Korvac was dead set on killing those who did this to him, at least until the Grandmaster teleported him to battle Doctor Strange and the Defenders. Korvac intentionally lost the battle and instead siphoned some of the Grandmaster's power using his new cybernetic abilities, making him even more powerful than before. Eventually, this guy ended up impersonating Kang the Conqueror and the Watcher, and with his ability to siphon power from others, this makes him one of the scariest villains in the Marvel Universe, at least if he was smart about it and didn't go and get himself killed. multiple times.
Number 5. The Builders. The Builders ended up being an insanely massive threat when they first showed up on the scene. They were destroyers of worlds, flying around completely wiping out all life on planets, and threatening some of the greatest empires in the cosmos. Although, originally they were kind of more like creators of life and planets, but I digress. In order to defeat the Builders, thought to be the oldest race of beings in the universe, Earth's heroes were compelled to join forces with the galaxy's other superpowers, including the Shi'ar Empire, the Kree, the Skrulls, Spartax, and more. It took an intergalactic army to even stand a chance against the Builders, and even then, that chance initially seemed pretty bleak, pretty slim. Captain Universe, who is said to have created the Builders, joined the fight against them, and eventually all worlds rose up and united, and were able to defeat them. Later on, an even greater cosmic threat, the Beyonders, who we really need to talk about on a part 2 for this list actually, destroyed the Builders. The Beyonders are pretty crazy.
Getting close to the end, and in number 4, Amatsu Mikaboshi. To the Shinto religion in Japan, Amatsu Mikaboshi is the god of evil, chaos, and the stars, a primordial being who was imprisoned in the Shinto underworld, known as Yomi, for all eternity. Fun. First introduced in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, this guy is an absolute beast. Just look at him. This thing is my sleep paralysis demon. Mikaboshi fought against the Demogorge for control of literally the universe, and that's not even a joke. This guy was going to wipe out an entire race of interdimensional beings known as the Kami, just to get a sword known as the Grass Cutter. Yeah, the Grass Cutter was a sword of such great power it apparently was worth wiping out an entire race of people. Dude, just get a lawnmower. Mikaboshi existed before the universe did, before the Big Bang, back when time didn't exist and when the universe was only darkness. He can take on anyone from Thor to even Olympian gods by using his extreme arsenal of powers like shape-shifting, bending matter, mystical energy blasts, you name it, this guy can probably do it, including absorbing the entire multiverse, because he nearly did that as well. He was less than 2% away, actually. So close.
Number 3. Magus. Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, and we all know how powerful Adam Warlock is. Magus, being his dark equivalent, is extremely dangerous and also has a willing army at his disposal in his own church that he created, the Universal Church of Truth, which isn't really as nice as it sounds at all. They would harshly purify any planets who refused to accept their offer to join them, exterminating all who resisted. Pretty awful stuff. Being that Magus is the negative side of Adam Warlock, he possesses all of his abilities and powers.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Thanos. I'm sure we all know about the Mad Titan, especially thanks to the MCU, but while Thanos' MCU counterpart was portrayed as a man wanting to help a dying universe, at least kind of, the comic version of Thanos had a much simpler objective: impress death! Thanos is the definition of insane, doing whatever it takes to impress Death and gain her affection, and this coupled with an insatiable hunger for power and control makes him quite the dom. From the Cosmic Cube to the Infinity Gems, Thanos' lust for power is never satiated, but even so, he doesn't want to destroy everything. I guess since if he did, there would be nothing left to rule, and no more death to impress his mistress. This causes him to even at times join forces with heroes when there's a bigger threat than himself, teaming up with Adam Warlock to stop Magus and the Goddess, and teaming up with the Guardians to stop the invasion of the Cancerverse, just to name a couple. So while he could kill most of us in a snap, at least we know some of us would survive, so that he could then dom us.
Number 1. Galactus. Galactus is obviously one of the greatest and most constant cosmic threats that the universe faces. He is a devourer of worlds whose bottomless hunger is what makes him such a feared antagonist, even though really Galactus himself isn't generally pretty neutral without his hunger. In fact, he's even been a force of good on a few occasions. Still, whichever side he's on at the time, which let's be honest, usually is considered to be the more villainous side simply because he needs to destroy worlds to continue surviving, he is not a villain you'd want to come up against, as not only do you have to face him, a massive cosmic giant wielding the extraordinary power cosmic, but you also usually have to deal with his heralds, who themselves can be a lot to handle, and also have a little bit of power cosmic.
Coming in at number 10, we have the Brood. Being the first predator in the universe is a good way to get you on this list. If you're unfamiliar with the Brood, they are an insect-like race that goes through the universe and literally consumes everything in sight. They are basically a hive mind that are all controlled by the Brood Queen. They are extremely hard to kill, and they spread like wildfire. Not only do they suck the universe dry for everything good, they genuinely enjoy the suffering of others. That's very rude of them. The Brood have multiple limbs, tails that have poisonous stingers, hangers on them, wings that come out of their back, and an exoskeleton that acts like armor. And it's not so much that one brood is hard to kill, but it's that, like any insect, once they infest an area they will start to spread, and you have to fight thousands if not millions of them. All of them can communicate telepathically with the brood mother, so if you start fighting one of them, then she can send a whole army after you in seconds, and they all know how to work together in a massive hive mind. Coming in at number 9, we have the Phalanx, a race of robot humanoids who have been captured and controlled so they can be used as weapons. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a fun existence, but there is a good reason for it. The reason that they have basically been used as living weapons is because they are really good at what they do. They love to take over worlds. Through their existence, they have taken tech from 100,000 different species, and they have used it to upgrade themselves and make their tech even more powerful. And they've been alive for what they say is 100,000 life cycles, and they've also caused the extinction of 200,000 races. That's one hell of a resume. You want these guys in your back pocket if you ever go to war with anyone across the universe. Their goal is to assimilate the whole universe into Phalanx, and it's thought that they are controlled by a titan who resides in a black hole. They go from planet to planet to suck each one dry for all of its resources and take all of the good tech. With each planet they consume, they become more powerful. Coming in at number 8, we have Ego, the living planet. Being a massive planet that only has one purpose but to consume and provide for himself sounds pretty dangerous. You think that if you were able to be alive for billions of years, you would learn to no longer have an ego. But the fact that you were created in conjunction with another version of yourself, aka Alter Ego, another living planet who is constantly in competition with Ego, I can understand why you have never lost your need for competition. Ego has the ability to consume life from other planets and is powerful enough to destroy them one by one, much like Galactus. But anything that is handcrafted by the Beyonder is sure to be extremely powerful. Coming in at number 7, we have Null, the god of the Symbiotes, a being that lived before the universe was created and existed in endless darkness. And from what I can gather about this character, it seemed that he was okay with just chilling in a void until he was moved from his position at the recreation of the universe. This really pissed him off, and he decided that he would go to war with some of the Celestials, and he actually cut off one of their heads. After that, the Celestials were able to banish him back into the void, but not before he grabbed that head. He then used that head to make a living forge and harness the power of evil and darkness to make his symbiote armor and the first symbiote suit. This suit has the power to morph into anything from weaponry to a dragon, and it doesn't have the same weaknesses as regular symbiotes, and with it, Null is able to go toe to toe with some of the most powerful beings in the universe, and the suit was even powerful enough to take over Galactus. Coming in at number 6, we have the Beyonder, an all-powerful celestial force that can bend matter, create worlds, and give people immense power just for the fun of it. He flies around the universe kinda messing with people because he can, and he is so powerful it's thought that the Beyonder is actually a representation of Jack Kirby in the Marvel universe. He has a strange obsession with people living on Earth because he sees them as incomplete beings who are trying to find a whole consciousness, where he sees himself as the opposite, already maxed out and unable to gain any higher level of consciousness. The event that the Beyonder is most famous for is when he created Battle World. He warped reality to create a whole world so he could handpick villains and heroes to duke it out for his amusement. But this doesn't mean that it's impossible for him to slip up. There was one occasion where Doctor Doom was able to steal away his powers, and as you can imagine, he quickly started shifting reality into his Victor Von Doom liking. Coming at number 5, we have Sidorak, one of the oldest gods from Earth. He used to be worshipped like all of the other great gods on our planet, but for some reason he was banished to the Crimson Realm. He now sits there angry and dishes out powers of destruction to who he sees fit. The most famous person he has given powers to is the Juggernaut, imbuing him with a destructive force to tear down the world. He has the ability to summon armies of people to worship him, and within his Crimson Realm he is powerful beyond belief. But he cannot leave his realm, so unless you go there to pick a fight with him, you don't really need to worry about him, unless he sends the Juggernaut after you. Coming at number 4, we have the Phoenix Force, one of the better known entities in the Marvel Universe, as it has been able to work its way into movies and shows. It's one of the most powerful forces across the entire Marvel Universe. Now, this force can be used for good, and has been on some occasions. When the Phoenix Force was split between 5 different members of the X-Men in the Avengers vs. X-Men comic run, the holders of the force were able to use the power to rebuild Earth and create a form of world peace. But there have been times when the force is moving through the galaxy as a rogue and will destroy planet after planet while it looks for a host, so it's safe to say that this thing can't be trusted. There's also the fact that most of the characters who merge with the Phoenix Force go through an entire persona shift and have the tendency to destroy things. Coming at number 3, we have Ultron from the Annihilation Conquest storyline. Ultron typically sticks to messing around with things in our solar system, but when you're one of the biggest baddies in the Marvel Universe, eventually you're gonna stretch your legs a bit and start causing havoc around the universe. For a time, the Avengers thought Ultron was destroyed, but that was not the case. He actually transferred his consciousness into the Bible Spire and took command over the Phalanx, and we already know how powerful those people are. After taking control of an army of aliens, he wanted to take over the universe and become even more powerful by discovering a way to take over an organic body, and he set his sights on Adam Warlock. Ultron merged with Adam Warlock and became one of the most deadly forces in the universe, and was just about to make an army of Adam Warlock clones, but was forced out of AW's body by a virus brought on by Nova. But Ultron still managed to take control of millions of Kree soldiers and create a massive body for himself before he was destroyed. Coming in at number 2, we have Galactus. I mean, come on, we can make a list of people tearing down the universe and being some of the most powerful creatures through space-time without putting Galactus on the list. Let's start off by saying Galactus is old, like he's been around for billions of years. In fact, he was at the birth of the multiverse. Without getting too deep into this, Galactus used to be Galen, who was alive in the 6th multiverse, and when it was about to collapse into itself through another rebirth cycle, he flew into the center of the collapse and met the sentience of the multiverse, who gave him the power to survive the rebirth of the multiverse, and he was reborn as Galactus. He could now devour worlds to stay strong. Now, when this bad boy is hungry, he tends to be weak, and he is actually killable. But when he is juiced up on planet fuel, he is able to slap around multiple Celestials at once without even breaking a sweat. And coming in at the number 1 spot, we have Abirex, an entity who was created at the birth of the first multiverse and is the yin to the yang of eternity. Eternity being the force that makes sure the multiverse is constantly reborn and life goes on and reality can keep moving forward. Well, Abirex is the opposite of that. He seeks out the end of existence because that is his purpose. Like, dude, just chill for a minute. I'm trying to plan a picnic over here and I have a hard enough time finding out if it's gonna rain. Now I gotta worry about if existence will be deleted permanently. Eternity saw Abirex as a threat to reality, so he locked him away inside himself. Galactus is the balance that keeps Abirex in place, but when he was killed, this made the universe fall off kilter, and Abirex saw this as an opportunity to force himself into existence and nearly ripped reality apart.
Number 10. Ronan the Accuser. Making his debut in Fantastic Four number 65 back in 1967, Ronan the Accuser has been seen in live-action films as a villain in Guardians of the Galaxy, and now even Captain Marvel, played by the lovely Lee Pace. But who is this hammer-wielding big bad blue guy? Well, born on the planet Hala, Ronan was appointed by Supreme Accuser. Ronan was appointed Supreme Accuser of the Kree Empire by the Supreme Intelligence. He is second in command and is in charge of enforcing laws of the Kree. Since joining the Kree, Public Accuser Corps has done quite well, I'd say. So this hammer that he carries is known as the Universal Weapon. So minutes after his first appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, we see him use this hammer on a Nova corpsman. It's pretty fast, it's pretty violent too. This guy's fearless, he's a fearless leader, and I wish we saw more of him in the MCU. He is a Kree, so he obtains the abilities of resistance to poisons, toxins, diseases, and was even granted pocket universe creation abilities from the Black Vortex. See, once he obtains the Black Vortex, it's game over. Ronan was able to take on Gamora, Beast, and Angel while they had all submitted to its powers. The Supreme Intelligence told Ronan not to do the same, but he used the power from the Black Vortex to fight back. And he did so quite successfully, I'd say. Number 9. Hela. Making her debut in Journey into Mystery issue 102, Hela, aka the Goddess of Death, was the big bad villain in Thor Ragnarok, played by the lovely Cate Blanchett. Hela is the oldest of Odin's children, so you know she's gonna have a few tricks up her sleeve. She was Odin's personal executioner, and if that wasn't badass enough, she rides a giant wolf. In Thor Ragnarok, one of the biggest reveals that was shown in the trailer, for some odd reason, was her breaking Thor's hammer with her bare hands. Well, hand, rather. Yeah, she doesn't play around. Hela is a reference to Norse mythology, the goddess of the dead, Hel. So, when somebody dies in battle, they're sent to Valhalla by Odin's Valkyries. But when a dishonorable soul dies, it stays in the body until Hela comes around and condemns it with her, boop, touch of death. She doesn't even have to wait until you die either. She can just kill a perfectly healthy Asgardian with just that little boop of death. Do I think we'll see more of her in the MCU? Yeah, I also hope so. I don't think they're gonna kill off that good of a character just like that. At least not yet, hopefully. Hopefully we see more of her in Thor Love and Thunder. Number 8. Dora Mamu. Dora Mamu, I've come to bargain. That line from Doctor Strange helped us understand just how powerful the Lord of Chaos is in the MCU to defeat. Making his first appearance in Strange Tales number 126, Dora Mamu is the Lord of the Dark Dimension. He's primarily a villain to Doctor Strange, which shouldn't come as a surprise to those who have seen the 2016 Doctor Strange movie, directed by Scott Derrickson. In the last battle of the movie, we see Stephen Strange using time as a negotiation method. He's arguably the strongest villain in the MCU. He's been around for thousands of years, seeing as he's, you know, immortal and all. He's composed of pure mystic energy and can match the greatest sorcerers, like of course Doctor Strange and the Ancient One. He controls an army called the Mindless Ones, and is even more powerful in the Dark Dimension, being empowered by his followers, of course. With Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness being announced, I have a feeling we're going to see this mystical entity again very soon on the big screen. Number 7. Thanos. You know who this guy is, come on. We first saw him in the after credits scene of Avengers 1 and 2, and then we saw him sitting down in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then we saw him snap away half of all life of the universe in Avengers Infinity War. The Mad Titan first made his comic book debut back in Iron Man issue 55. Funny enough, Robert Downey Jr. is actually 55 years old. Coincidence? Yes, definitely, most definitely. Hands down, a coincidence. So, we all know how powerful Thanos is with the Infinity Gauntlet, but if you haven't seen the movies, I'll touch briefly on those. But without the Gauntlet, Thanos is still a villain you don't want to mess with. Born on Saturn's moon, Titan, both of his parents were Eternals, and due to the genetic disorder known as the Deviant Syndrome, his mother actually tried to kill him at first sight. That's just mean. I mean, don't do that. I mean, he got payback when he killed his entire family just to impress Death, so, kind of fair. Oh yeah, he's also in love with Death. Like the actual death. In the opening of Avengers Infinity War, we see Thanos level the Hulk without even using a single Infinity Stone. That's how strong this guy is. But once he obtains all 6 Infinity Stones, he has control over each stone's cosmic powers, those being soul, time, power, reality, space, and mind. And after that, he snapped his fingers and half of all of life disappeared. In the comics, he does this to get the attention of Death, but in the movie he does it to be a savior. Too many mouths to feed, not enough to go around, he says. Hey man, just snap some food for people, I don't know, or snap some more planets with more stuff. Just an idea, I don't know. Number 6. Venom. Now, of course, I'm going to include the Clintar, specifically the one that attached itself to Eddie Brock. Making his first appearance in The Amazing Spider-Man 252, Venom was initially attached to Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. The Clintar symbiote was made by the Dark Elder God, Null. We mentioned Null in part 1 of this list, so if you haven't already, make sure you go and check that out after this video. A little part 2, then part 1. I see ya, you're going backwards. Living life on the edge. So, Eddie Brock got fired from the Daily Globe after Spider-Man called him out. Eddie Brock, who also had cancer, sad little side note there, he got pissed. And as you saw in Spider-Man 3, he eventually bonded with the symbiote at the Bell Tower. Then it was all downhill from there. We are Venom to become one. So naturally, they both wanted to go and try and kill Spider-Man. Imagine having a fully sentient being merge with you. I think I'd be on board. Hey, touch this and you'll basically be Spider-Man. Okay, done, no problem. Say no more, sir. This symbiote is also able to cling onto other beings and bond with other superpowers. That's crazy. Its weaknesses are only heat and loud vibrations. I personally would kill for this cosmic power. Absorb me all. Take me, Venom. Number 5. The Skrull Empire. They made their comic book debut in Fantastic Four issue 2 back in 1962, and they made their Marvel Cinematic debut only last year in Captain Marvel. But who are the Skrulls? Well, they're a race of shapeshifters from the Andromeda Galaxy. They look like green humans, kind of, a bit more lizard-like. Except much more powerful and ferocious, that is. They lived on the homeworld of Skrullos in the Druk system. I loved watching these guys in Captain Marvel. It was nice to see the villains relate in a human way, like on a human level. So usually we have these giant evil gods or insane robots, but to see the villains of that movie end up just wanting the same chances of survival as humans, that's a classic. So yeah, they're expert shapeshifters. They can transform into pretty much anything organic or non-organic, as long as it's solid. Can't be water. They can't just, shapeshift into a Gatorade and then call it a day. They have similar abilities as Mr. Fantastic. They can make their limbs stretch out. They can't adapt to superpowers unless you're a Super Skrull. The Skrull-Kree War. Ooh, that's gonna be a lot of K's there. The Skrull-Kree War is the most notable. It was one of the central plots for Captain Marvel. I have a feeling we're gonna see more Skrulls in the MCU. I just hope that they don't use it to do whatever they want with any plot, if you feel me. Like Nick Fury at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. That was a fun little moment. Anything else too crazy might just kind of undo what we've done so far. I don't know. Number 4. The Magus. Making his comic book debut in New Mutants issue 18, the Magus is a powerful enemy of Adam Warlock. He travels alongside Thanos in the Guardians of the Galaxy comic books, and in one of the many after-credit scenes for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Adam Warlock's name was briefly mentioned. Very brief. So hopefully we get this badass dude on screen soon, because Magus is originally a future version of Adam Warlock. So to see the two go at it with an actor who has this crazy range would be super entertaining. And after Adam Warlock obtained the Infinity Gauntlet, he cleansed himself of all good and evil, and this created an evil version of himself, almost like in that movie Oblivion with Tom Cruise. It would be one guy playing both. So good. Or Captain America versus Captain America, whatever you prefer. So we have the future Magus, right? He's the original older Magus, and he travels to the past to guide his younger self, so he ends up becoming where he is. Makes sense. Got it? Okay. Adam Warlock comes in and traps evil Magus in the Soul Gem, which is what I was hoping to see in Endgame, to be honest. I wanted to see everybody in the Soul World, and it would have been nice if Guardians of the Galaxy 3 kept to its original release date, and then maybe we could have had some more Adam Warlock stuff in the picture by now, answering more questions that we still have about the Infinity Stones in the MCU, especially the Soul Stone. Number 3. The Celestials. Making their first appearance in Eternals issue 1 back in 1976, the Celestials have been seen many times in the MCU and many more in the comics. There were actually billions of Celestials until a weapon known as the God Killer took most of them out. They are powerful extraterrestrial cosmic beings. We saw one of them wipe out a planet in Guardians of the Galaxy 1. They are the ones who created the Eternals and the Deviants. So these space gods are around 1,000 feet tall, give or take. We even see the inside of one of their heads when Thanos gets the Reality Stone in Infinity War. It's called Nowhere. It's that big floating head. The first celestial host arrived to Earth 1 million or so years ago when they created the Eternals and the Deviants, but later on, they were the reasoning behind the existence of mutants, creating the mutant gene. Yeah, so they're pretty important, I'd say. The second host on Earth sunk Atlantis, so a bit less fun than that first one there. Then the third one got into a fight with the Sky Gods because it wanted the right to toy around with humans. So they aren't exactly the most chill entities out there, I guess. Despite being these all-powerful gods, they still need to wear armor just like the rest of us. Armor that is equipped with the tools needed to successfully wipe out an entire planet. Not just like a tape measure, you know? Now all this power, but where does it come from? Well, after Reed Richards' son almost gets turned into a Celestial, he was determined to find that answer out himself. Reed concludes that the Celestials are drawing power from extra-dimensional sources like pocket universes or even hyperspace. So they just come along to Earth every now and then, check out how we're doing, and then either destroy all of us or give a couple of us powers. I'll be waiting outside in an open field after this video is done. I'll also be waiting for the Celestials to come and judge me and give me super speed or super length, something else, you know, something cool, or like a lot of money. I'm good with either of those. Number 2. Kang the Conqueror. Also known as Nathaniel Richards, Kang the Conqueror is actually already cast in the live-action MCU. Air horns. Jonathan Majors is joining the cast of Ant-Man 3 to play the hyped character. But who is Kang? Well, making his first appearance in Avengers issue 8 back in 1964, Kang has seen many centuries. His powers allow him to travel through time, and his futuristic suit of armor is built with weapons that could take on any super. He's also incredibly smart and of course travels with armies as backup. These armies are built in a similar fashion sense, each warrior equipped with the same armory and weaponry. The time travel stuff doesn't come without consequence though, so as Kang travels more and more through time, he creates time-displaced duplicates. As we saw in Avengers Endgame, it can be tricky to figure that out. I think this is a perfect time to introduce a time-hopping villain, especially for Ant-Man, who's now a big-time Avenger who's been around the quantum block a few times. So what do you guys think will be Kang's goal in Ant-Man 3? How do you guys think he's going to be written into this current MCU run? Honestly, I think after WandaVision and the Multiverse of Madness, Kang's going to end up trying to clean the timelines up, just as the Avengers did, but he'll be laying waste to any Avenger that stands in his way. And finally, number 1, Mad Jim Jaspers. Yes, lastly we have James Jaspers, unreal name. He made his debut in Daredevils number 7 in 1983. This dude's nuts. So he was this British politician who served as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, okay? He was a leader of the Conservative Party. He was known for his anti-superhero stance because he wanted to keep Britain safe, okay? So of course many people were with him and he won the general election. But old Jim Jaspers was more than meets the eye. He's actually a mutant with reality warping powers. And these type of mutants scare me. So he's representing Haslip West. He even gets knighted by Queen Elizabeth. So he creates this strike team whose job it is pretty much to gather up all of the superheroes. The slogan on all of his posters says, "In your hearts, you know he's right." Yeah, in my heart, I know he's kind of a psycho. The main bread and butter of the capabilities of Jim Jaspers takes place in the Marvel UK storyline titled Crooked World. So if you want to see the reality warping that Jim's capable of in full force, go check that out for yourself. Also, I'm calling it right now. Jim Jaspers will be introduced in WandaVision and will be a secret villain pulling the strings in some way, shape, or form. I'm calling it. It's noted. That's it. Check the date, the timestamps. It's all there. Official.
Number 10, Cosmic Ghost Rider. What happens when Frank Castle becomes a Ghost Rider just as planet Earth is dying and there is no one left to avenge? Well, you get the brilliant and insane Cosmic Ghost Rider. This version of Frank Castle ended up teaming up with Galactus originally in order to try and take on Thanos, who threatened the existence of all life at the time as he tried to win the heart of Mistress Death. In the end, no one was left to serve but Thanos, and Cosmic Ghost Rider was driven mad by loneliness and heartbreak and being unable to die. So he eventually ended up joining Thanos anyways. He is as powerful as he is insane at this point and is a frighteningly cheerful version of Frank Castle, especially considering all of the horrors he's witnessed, especially when he was serving Thanos. Did some pretty bad stuff. Number 9, Annihilus. Annihilus is a somewhat lost being who was created in the negative zone on a planet known as Athros. He evolved from life spores that were left there and ended up mutating and growing to be a highly intelligent insectoid-like life form. He has been an enemy and ally to the Fantastic Four, depending on the circumstances, and he also once almost took over Asgard, managing to take on the Asgardian soldiers and even beat Thor. Thankfully, Odin stopped him before he could succeed. Poor Annihilus, I feel like he's so lost in life. Really needs a stronger purpose. Number 8, Iowa the Mungazoth. Hope I'm saying that right. Known as the Lord of Darkness, Iowa the Mungazoth is called upon in an issue of Creatures on the Loose from the 70s. This cosmic eldritch god-like entity could also be tied to the many-angled ones, who occasionally crop up in the Marvelverse. But we don't have enough information to really know whether or not for sure if Iowa the Mungazoth is a separate entity or simply one that we've maybe already met but is operating under a different name, under some kind of alias. He is one of the gods referred to in the comic by the High Priest of the Dragon King, known as Sa. Sa, in the story, aims to make 3 human sacrifices in order to give the energy to the Lords of Chaos that they need so that they may travel across the cosmos to Earth. Sounds like a bad idea. Sounds like you probably don't want the Lords of Chaos to come by, but you know, to each their own. I guess if you're the High Priest of the Dragon King, you do. That's what you want. I'm not here to judge. Number 7, God Quarry. In 2016's Thanos series, there's a place known as the God Quarry. It is a pit guarded by 3 eternal witches, known as the Coven. The pit is said to reward those who can overcome its challenges by granting them with great power. But first, you must face whatever it is that could potentially be holding you back. Once in the pit, you find yourself merged within it, becoming a part of it, and then you begin to see what it is that could most tempt you? For me, it would probably be a big pile of cookies. For many leaders who have come there seeking power, the temptation was too great and they could not escape. Instead, now a part of the pit, they remain trapped for eternity. But hey, with great risk comes great reward. And yeah, Thanos did have to go in that pit. And what happens? You're gonna have to read the series. I don't want to spoil it. Number 6, the Universal Church of Truth. Almost a misnomer, the Universal Church of Truth is not as innocent as it sounds. It is made up of believers from planets throughout the universe who worship the evil being known as Magus. The church invades planets, and if the planet's inhabitants refuse to accept and adopt their faith, they will burn it to the ground, killing anyone who refuses to join them. They're basically like a really insane cult that invades, converts, and conquers planets. So yeah, they sound better than they are. Number 5, Phalanx. I'm not actually sure what is more scary, the Phalanx or the race they're believed to come from, the Technarchy. The Phalanx's main goal is to eventually conquer and assimilate, so to speak, the entire universe. Now, how do they do this? As a technological race, they use a virus known as the techno-organic virus to infect the planets they come across and eventually use it to devour all organic life there and consume all information on the planet. This virus is the same as the one that Cable is infected with. Or, well, it's similar. He is sort of a variation or an evolution of the virus that they use. But they're both techno-organic viruses. Just not like completely identical. Number 4, Dora Mamu. An evil cosmic being, Dora Mamu is one of the most powerful foes in the Marvel Universe. Up until Thanos truly revealed himself, and maybe even after Thanos came to full Infinity Gauntlet power, really, Dora Mamu was the most powerful foe that we'd seen in the MCU. And odds are good he'll return at some point, given how powerful he is in the Marvelverse in regards to the comics. He's attempted to depose the Celestials, and at one point even tried to take on Eternity. Even if he didn't fare so well, just the idea of taking on Eternity is a big, scary deal. Eternity basically embodies the entirety of Earth 616 and is only surpassed in terms of authority by the Living Tribunal. So yeah, pretty serious business if you're taking on Eternity. That entity, I wouldn't want to mess with it. Number 3, Shuma-Gorath. Shuma-Gorath is one of the Great Old Ones and many Angled Ones, basically a Marvel version of an Elder God. Like Dora Mamu, he is also known as being one of the Lords of Chaos. Although it's been unclear throughout the comic lore to tell if there are truly multiple Lords of Chaos or just one Lord who keeps being renamed throughout, this Many Angled One is known for being one of the oldest entities in the Marvel Universe. He has returned to Earth many times and set up as a god there, being worshipped even on Earth before the sinking of Atlantis, where he demanded blood sacrifices. Sounds familiar. Sounds like someone else we heard of earlier. Are they the same person? Maybe. I don't know. Number 2, the Brood. These aliens are insectoid beings who reproduce through finding hosts on other planets whom they can implant with their offspring. Great, right? Do we love that? Yeah, basically, you get the picture. It's kind of like Alien, except instead of something bursting out of you, it hatches and then completely takes you over, inside and out, basically possessing your mind and your body and then just killing you in the process, so you're really no longer there. The Brood don't just do this to survive though, they actually enjoy the terror and horror that they cause among other species. They enjoy hurting and frightening others. It doesn't bother them, and to them it's even pleasant or amusing. Yeah, so scary. Number 1, Cancerverse. While the Cancerverse is an alternate Marvel universe, much of what we see of it involves a cosmic presence. Most of the important goings-ons in regards to stories involving it happen in outer space. The Cancerverse is a world where there is no death. Sounds nice, right? Think again. Without death to provide balance to the world, life was left without anything to hold it back, and as a result became a wild and evil thing, transforming into something like an eldritch god or a monster. This all came to pass because the original Captain Marvel made a deal with the Many Angled Ones in exchange for them curing him of his cancer. The Many Angled Ones themselves is also pretty horrific, so.
Starting us off in at number 10, Terrax. Originally known as Tyros, he started as a dictator of landlac in a solar system around 80,000 light years from Earth. He maintained control using his power over rock. In essence, this guy was a more advanced earthbender, being able to animate figures out of stone that would patrol the kingdom, maintaining his order and rule. However, this wouldn't last forever, since Galactus was seeking a new herald to guide him towards his next dinner buffet. Galactus had also finally learned that you shouldn't have good guys find you worlds to destroy. So when the Fantastic Four asked Galactus for help against the Sphinx, his only condition to help was if the Fantastic Four subdued Tyros for him. They did, and Tyros was exposed to the cosmic power of Galactus and turned him into Terrax the Tamer. His control over stone was improved tenfold, and he could nearly control a whole planet of stone at once. In addition to this, he was granted the Cosmic Axe, which was capable of generating waves of cosmic force. Terrax was nuts, even beginning to wipe out worlds before Galactus got there, even at times defying Galactus' wishes, which is pretty ballsy if you ask me. I mean, like, that's what you get for hiring a bad guy though, I guess.
Number 9. Umar. Umar is the sister of Dora Mamu and is basically on a similar level to her brother. She has a great knowledge of magical lore which she can use to do a vast number of things. She also is capable of teleportation and time travel. And you know how I feel about teleporters, they are pretty OP in my opinion. Same basically with any person, hero or villain who can manipulate time. Umar often allies herself with her brother even though he hasn't always treated her great. I don't think Dora Mamu will be winning any Brother of the Year awards is all I'm saying. She has also been shown to be more powerful than Doctor Strange even, on occasion. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list as much as I love all of the things that are cosmic, cosmic things, they're so great, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. I think that was a sentence that made sense.
And today, Ego. Introduced in Thor number 132 in 1966, Ego was created when a mysterious being known as the Stranger visited his home star in order to conduct an experiment. A scientist by the name of Ego started work on a way to save his race from the nova that experiment had left inevitable. The night of the explosion, Ego had his race move into the bunkers he had set up at the planet's core, but the star exploded sooner than they had planned. So in an attempt to save his own life, he tried to reach the underground vault, but failed. However, Egros was merged with every living thing destroyed by that sun, including his people. This created Ego the Living Planet. Considering how this guy is literally a living planet, I think it's safe to say why he's on this list, especially when he was able to hold his own against Galactus. Yeah, a few months after a battle with Thor, Galactus discovered Ego and instantly attacked. Understandably. Ego in his defense created a shield of solid clouds and began to fight back, attempting to strangle Galactus with tentacles. I feel like I've seen that video before. Either way, anyone able to hold their own against Galactus is well deserving to be on this list.
Number 7. Dora Mamu. Dora Mamu recently actually came out on top against Ego in a battle, and in certain conditions possesses limitless power. Dora Mamu is part mystical and part cosmic in terms of what kind of villain he is, but make no mistake that he is not out of his element in outer space at all. Dora Mamu has battled against Odin and has even threatened to end the Celestials before, who are like super cosmic, claiming that he will be the one to destroy the extremely powerful beings. I think we're still waiting for that to happen, but I believe. Not only has Dora Mamu threatened the existence of Earth before, like we saw in the MCU, but in the comics he has threatened the entire universe and even entire reality of Earth 616 before. So that's the kind of level that he's generally on. There's like other villains, and then there's Dora Mamu.
And at 6, Michael Korvac. Being first introduced in Giant Size Defenders number 3 in 1975, Michael Korvac's father was killed due to events surrounding his birth in 2977. He was raised by his mother, but when the solar system he lived in on Earth 691 and its colonies became the target for the Brotherhood of Badoon, Michael became a traitor and helped the Brotherhood. However, after a few moments of hesitation later on, he was cut in half and fused with his computer by the Brotherhood, turning him into basically a cyborg. But this seemed to do more harm than good for the Brotherhood, since now Korvac was dead set on killing those who did this to him, at least until the Grandmaster teleported him to battle Doctor Strange and the Defenders. Korvac intentionally lost the battle and instead siphoned some of the Grandmaster's power using his new cybernetic abilities, making him even more powerful than before. Eventually, this guy ended up impersonating Kang the Conqueror and the Watcher, and with his ability to siphon power from others, this makes him one of the scariest villains in the Marvel Universe, at least if he was smart about it and didn't go and get himself killed. multiple times.
Number 5. The Builders. The Builders ended up being an insanely massive threat when they first showed up on the scene. They were destroyers of worlds, flying around completely wiping out all life on planets, and threatening some of the greatest empires in the cosmos. Although, originally they were kind of more like creators of life and planets, but I digress. In order to defeat the Builders, thought to be the oldest race of beings in the universe, Earth's heroes were compelled to join forces with the galaxy's other superpowers, including the Shi'ar Empire, the Kree, the Skrulls, Spartax, and more. It took an intergalactic army to even stand a chance against the Builders, and even then, that chance initially seemed pretty bleak, pretty slim. Captain Universe, who is said to have created the Builders, joined the fight against them, and eventually all worlds rose up and united, and were able to defeat them. Later on, an even greater cosmic threat, the Beyonders, who we really need to talk about on a part 2 for this list actually, destroyed the Builders. The Beyonders are pretty crazy.
Getting close to the end, and in number 4, Amatsu Mikaboshi. To the Shinto religion in Japan, Amatsu Mikaboshi is the god of evil, chaos, and the stars, a primordial being who was imprisoned in the Shinto underworld, known as Yomi, for all eternity. Fun. First introduced in Thor Blood Oath number 6 in 2006, this guy is an absolute beast. Just look at him. This thing is my sleep paralysis demon. Mikaboshi fought against the Demogorge for control of literally the universe, and that's not even a joke. This guy was going to wipe out an entire race of interdimensional beings known as the Kami, just to get a sword known as the Grass Cutter. Yeah, the Grass Cutter was a sword of such great power it apparently was worth wiping out an entire race of people. Dude, just get a lawnmower. Mikaboshi existed before the universe did, before the Big Bang, back when time didn't exist and when the universe was only darkness. He can take on anyone from Thor to even Olympian gods by using his extreme arsenal of powers like shape-shifting, bending matter, mystical energy blasts, you name it, this guy can probably do it, including absorbing the entire multiverse, because he nearly did that as well. He was less than 2% away, actually. So close.
Number 3. Magus. Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, and we all know how powerful Adam Warlock is. Magus, being his dark equivalent, is extremely dangerous and also has a willing army at his disposal in his own church that he created, the Universal Church of Truth, which isn't really as nice as it sounds at all. They would harshly purify any planets who refused to accept their offer to join them, exterminating all who resisted. Pretty awful stuff. Being that Magus is the negative side of Adam Warlock, he possesses all of his abilities and powers.
Penultimately, in at number 2, Thanos. I'm sure we all know about the Mad Titan, especially thanks to the MCU, but while Thanos' MCU counterpart was portrayed as a man wanting to help a dying universe, at least kind of, the comic version of Thanos had a much simpler objective: impress death! Thanos is the definition of insane, doing whatever it takes to impress Death and gain her affection, and this coupled with an insatiable hunger for power and control makes him quite the dom. From the Cosmic Cube to the Infinity Gems, Thanos' lust for power is never satiated, but even so, he doesn't want to destroy everything. I guess since if he did, there would be nothing left to rule, and no more death to impress his mistress. This causes him to even at times join forces with heroes when there's a bigger threat than himself, teaming up with Adam Warlock to stop Magus and the Goddess, and teaming up with the Guardians to stop the invasion of the Cancerverse, just to name a couple. So while he could kill most of us in a snap, at least we know some of us would survive, so that he could then dom us.
Number 1. Galactus. Galactus is obviously one of the greatest and most constant cosmic threats that the universe faces. He is a devourer of worlds whose bottomless hunger is what makes him such a feared antagonist, even though really Galactus himself is generally pretty neutral without his hunger. In fact, he's even been a force of good on a few occasions. Still, whichever side he's on at the time, which let's be honest, usually is considered to be the more villainous side simply because he needs to destroy worlds to continue surviving, he is not a villain you'd want to come up against, as not only do you have to face him, a massive cosmic giant wielding the extraordinary power cosmic, but you also usually have to deal with his heralds, who themselves can be a lot to handle, and also have a little bit of power cosmic.